staff, how are you tonight? Good to see you. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the continuing relationship that we have garnered with all of you. It's deeply appreciated that we've been able to work together in such fine capacity. I come to you tonight with sort of a request. About 2 months ago, our agency on area aging advised us that our funding was going to be cut to our senior centers in Montezuma County. 2 weeks ago, Mancos Council donated $20,000 to their senior center. Last week, Dolores donated $12,000 to their center, and we are working and asking that maybe Cortez would like to contribute to the Cortez Center. We don't ask for specific amounts. We just ask that you consider us in your budget planning for next year. We are good to go until probably the end of June. We still have, their fiscal year runs till the end of June. So we're good to go then. Our senior center reaches out with a lot of home delivery meals, and a lot of our seniors in this community, sometimes they're the only people that they see once or twice a week, and that's the only contact they have with the outside world. So it's really important to us to feed and make contact with these seniors and make sure they're doing okay in their lives. It's hard just with a door knock and here's a meal, how you doing? And sometimes they'll spill to you and sometimes they won't. But if that happens, we do have the resources now to get them help and a little bit of funding at times. So if you would consider that in your budgeting, we would appreciate it. Now, to segue into the next part of it, also AAA, Agency on Area Aging, bought 5 grow domes for the area. And one of them was supposed to land in Dolores County, and Dolores County turned it down and asked if Montezuma County would pick that up. We looked at the fairgrounds location that we have out there. We have plenty of room at the fairgrounds, but it's out of reach for our seniors to really go out there and participate. So we got to looking around, and we've landed kind of on an area out here by the combined courts area, or the county owns a strip of land that runs alongside of the jail. We don't know if that strip is big enough to house it, but we'd like to consider and use your planning department to see if we can put that here, if it's combine this, and we think the senior centers can use some of this food. If not, the jail can, and what we can't use there, they can put up for sale or use in the food cooperatives that we have in Cortez. So this is kind of a neat project. If any of you have seen a grow dome, they're amazing what they can produce. And it's more or less a year-round production. So it's going to be kind of neat, and we'd like to have you as a participant and a member, as well as just providing a piece of ground. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Kent. And then Kelly, can you note that to bring up during our budget season, which is coming up soon? So, all right. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to agenda item 3, public participation. There is no limit to the number of speakers, although public comment will be held to an overall time limit of 30 minutes. Speakers have a time limit of 3 minutes per person, may only speak once, and may not cede time to another commenter. All right, time is 7:46. All right, we have one commenter tonight. I'd like to invite up Paul Emergiati. So make sure the mic is green. And then if you speak for the whole 3 minutes, we have visual cues to let you know how much time you have left.
Okay, I'll be brief. Thanks for allowing me to speak. My name is Paul Emergiati. I live at 317 North Chestnut, and I wanted to speak about what I call the Nada Park, the old high school grounds. It was designed to be a park, but I know because of financial reasons it hasn't been developed. But there are several very mature trees there that haven't been watered and are in really bad shape. And if the city's ever to create that into a park, I think the foundation of a park is nice trees. I think everybody knows it takes 20 to 30 years to grow a tree, and if we lose them, that's a really valuable asset. And in my mind, the amount of money that the city might spend for fixing the watering system would be equal to the amount it might cost to cut it down, which takes a lot of time and money. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention that I think it's a pretty valuable asset, and before they do die because of the drought, take some action and see if we can get those things saved. So that's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for coming and engaging. All right, we'll move on to agenda item 4, presentations. 4A is our June 2022 financial statements. Presenter Kelly Koski, our finance director.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Included in your packet this evening are the financial statements for June of 2022. I also included a memo and wanted to specifically emphasize the difference in our funding that we have as far as our enterprise funds and our general funds. It's important to note that not only is there a GASB statement that deals with enterprise funds, but also we have our own City of Cortez financial policies that were just recently adopted that speak to the use of general fund being intertwined with enterprise funds. It's especially important because one of the first things that our auditors always ask are, do you have a policy? Well, yes, we do have a policy. It's a beautiful policy. And their second question is always, are you following your policy? And you always want that answer to be, yes, we are. So I think there has been some confusion about the way that the finances of the City of Cortez run, and that, it's one big checkbook and all of the funding comes into one source and comes out of the same source. But those enterprise funds truly are separate from the general fund, and they do have their own designated revenues that are designed to meet all of their own expenses. So it's a reason that I just felt like we needed to emphasize that a little more than we had in the past. Does anybody have any questions?
Who helps manage those funds to make sure they have a savings plan and are the fee structures correct? Is that departments or is that finance department?
So that really is a team effort. The finance department deals with the investment side of the policy, and then as we go through our budgeting process, Drew and I meet with every single one of the departments, and we go over not only the revenue, which includes the fee structures, but also the expenses line item by line item. So it really is a team effort.
My question was just kind of specific about, since we're about 6 months, it's a good time to get a report. Are there any line items or departments that you're concerned about that we're overspending in the first half of the year, or are we on track?
So I do have a bit of concern about our shop fund, which is not an enterprise fund, it is an internal service fund. It was set up and designed to do all of the vehicle repairs and equipment repairs for all of the departments within the city, and it is running over already 6 months into the year, so that is a concern. We've been watching very closely the refuse fund and the water fund. Both of those so far seem to be doing well through June. As we look out through August, there's maybe a couple of anomalies that I'm not sure if those are going to continue throughout the rest of the year, if that was just a blip in the month because it was summertime or it was a cyclical thing, but we'll be having those discussions during the budget season.
Can you give me a brief class, synopsis, whatever, on workman's compensation? Because it's a common theme. We're over on it everywhere, from the library to everything. What's going on with workman's comp?
So workman's compensation, and our HR director would probably have a lot more information about this, but basically, anybody that's hurt on the job is required to report those injuries to our HR department. And if there are injuries that do require doctor's attention, then there is a claim that is filed through the workman's compensation. It's like an insurance. So while that person is out, their medical bills are covered through workman's compensation, but the city also pays a quarter of their salary while they are gone. Workman's compensation claims work on a rotating 3-year basis. So let's say that we have a claim in year 1, that's going to increase your rates in year 2 and also in year 3. So it really takes about 3 years for each separate claim to go away as far as the increases in the rates that you're paying for your workman's comp insurance. It's quite a process.
Are we not budgeting enough for workman's comp, or why is it showing we're over percentage 200, 300, 500%?
I think we've had several claims that no one could have prepared for or no one was expecting. Those are certainly much higher than we've seen in the past, and we've certainly had more claims than we had in the previous year. It's definitely one of those items that we're going to look at and try to determine. I know that our HR department and our SURSA insurance company has done a lot of safety training specifically designed for those departments that are showing some additional claims in workman's comp. We're hoping that'll help reduce some of those costs, but at this point, it is going to take it's going to take approximately 3 years for those new claims to roll off of the increases in our workman's comp insurance. So, short answer is I think we just had a lot more claims than we were expecting.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think we had a claim on almost every single, from the police to the library, we had claims. And I don't know how bad a paper cut could be, but maybe it could be very bad, but it cost us money.
It does. They all do, yes.
All right, thank you, Kelly. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 5A on the agenda. 5 is public hearings. 5A is ordinance number 1308, Series 2022, presented by Kelly Koski.
Good evening. So this evening, I bring before you ordinance number 1308, Series 2022. It is a revision of the 22 budget, which is originally passed, with ordinance number 1291, Series 2021. Just for review, that does include only 4 items that we added in the mid-year budget adjustment. One of those is going to be paid for with our ARPA funding that we have. So that dollar amount, even though it shows as the adjustment, will actually be paid for with grant funds. Does anybody have any additional questions about budget adjustments?
I think it's worth it to just note again for the public that we did not include the AV equipment in this.
That is correct. The
Okay.
AV equipment was not included on this list.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, this list includes money for the CIP program, which we got a presentation from tonight, money for the development of our city attorney as an employee and their half a year of salary and benefits, the purchase of property at Empire and Mildred for future street and intersection improvements, and then the ARPA funds for County Road F to the airport and fixing up that road.
Yes. Correct.
All right, well, I'll open this up to public comment. All right, seeing none, I'll close the public comment section. Any further discussion or potentially a motion on this?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve on second and final reading ordinance number 1308, Series 2022, an ordinance amending the 2022 budget.
Second.
All right, motion made by Pro Tem Yazzie and seconded by Dobry.
Kiefhoffer.
Aye.
Dobry.
Aye.
DeHaven.
Aye.
Rainey.
Aye.
Spurl.
Aye.
Yazzie.
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. Sorry, okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Kelly. All right, we'll move on to 5B on the agenda, ordinance number 1309, Series 2022, presented by Jeremy Patton, our airport manager.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council. So we're here to approve, or staff requesting to approve the second reading of ordinance, ordinance 1309, Series 2022, the land lease agreement for hangar development for Jared and Karen Hansen. We read the first reading of said ordinance was on the 26th of July, 2022. If y'all remember, we kind of revisited the ordinance after some substantive changes in the lease agreement. So we'd like to just highlight the fiscal impact per year. The size of this hangar will bring to the airport, the fund, about $2,234 or $340 year one, and then subsequent years will be adjusted per CPI. And it's a 40-year land lease again. So staff recommends that City Council adopt on second reading ordinance 1309, Series 2022.
Any questions? All right, I'll open this up to public comment. All right, seeing none, I'll close the public comment section. Any further discussion or a potential motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 1309, Series 2022, an ordinance authorizing and approving a ground lease with Jared and Karen Hansen for construction of an airport hangar at the Cortez Municipal Airport.
Second.
All right, motion made by Councilmember Dobry and seconded by, I think I heard Rainey first.
Rainey.
Aye.
Spurl.
Aye.
DeHaven.
Aye.
Kiefhoffer.
Aye.
Yazzie.
Aye.
Dobry.
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right, thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Council.
All right, so 6 on our agenda is unfinished business. We have none. So 7 is new business. 7A, Recreation Center Natural Gas Contract, presented by Rick Smith, our General Services Director.
Good evening, Council, Madam Mayor and City Council. This contract is basically a voided cost contract to lock in natural gas for the rec center. As a way of history, we started this in 2008, and it saved the city quite a bit of money over the years on our natural gas bill. I'd point out too that the rec center is the only building the city has that has a big enough demand that we're able to have a separate meter that transports the gas in by way of Atmos. So the rec center is currently served on a contract by Symmetry Energy, and they approached staff and asked us if we wanted to lock in the rates for the next 24 months. And as you can see on the memo there, they're wanting to lock it in at $7.61 per million BTU. As a comparison, that June rate would have been $9.30 on our old contract. Had we been with Atmos Energy, it would have been $10.51. So it's quite a bit of avoided cost. What they do, they go out in a market, they secure the volume of gas on a monthly basis and lock in the price for us. I'd like to thank our new city attorney, Patrick Coleman. He caught a point on this contract, and as background, we started this contract, as I mentioned earlier, in 2008 with Seminole Energy. Later on, CenterPoint bought Seminole Energy. Well, now, the last few years, it's been under Symmetry, bought CenterPoint. So he brought it up, and we needed to update our master services contract, which is the contract behind the sales order that you see here. I also passed out a copy of it just prior to the opening of this meeting. That's the master of which this sales order goes against. So I don't know if Patrick would want to add something to that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. The main issue with the previous contract was under Colorado law, local governments cannot enter into multi-year financial obligations unless they appropriate the amount of money necessary to fund the entire obligation over multiple years in the first year. That's one option. The other option is to include a clause in the contract, which is generally the case that is done statewide, that indicates that the contract is subject to an annual appropriation by the local government. In other words, if you choose not to appropriate the money in year 2, you can terminate the contract without any damages or anything to you. You certainly have to pay for gas incurred up to that point, but it keeps you in compliance with the local government budget law, and Tabor also has a prohibition against multi-year financial obligations without a vote of the public. So this is something that we should have in all of our contracts that are beyond one-year terms where the city's spending money. And they have agreed to make that change, although Rick and I both caught they left the language that says if the funds of state or federal funds are unavailable, then we can terminate. It should say city funds, because the city is the entity that appropriates the funds. So my recommendation would be that you approve the contract as presented with the amendment that deletes state and or federal funds and replaces it with city funds. Otherwise, I think I would recommend if you choose to approve it, that language will work.
Thank you. My one question was, we can do this not as an ordinance because it's a 23-month contract, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yes.
It's not really a question, but I think that there are, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. It seems like there are a few opportunities really to save money when you're talking about scale. And I think that this is probably one of those. I think it kind of reminds me of, working with other municipalities to buy, chemicals in bulk for treating water and things like that. So I think anytime we have the opportunity to, save money because of, quantity, that it makes a lot of sense to me to lock it in.
Is there a bid process on this? Do we go to Amos and say, are you going to bid, or is there a bid process?
No, there's not, because Atmos would be just like you and I at our homes, just the rates that they have for commercial. And back in 2008, we started this program, as I mentioned earlier, as a way. Now, Atmos gets a chunk of the billing because they transport the gas. The gas comes to us from, I think it's called the Northwest Pipeline into here. It's the same gas. It's just it's a commodities type purchase agreement is what it is. There's nobody to bid it against. I mean, you could take the Atmos, or you could do something like this. It's not a thing like it's not like buying a vehicle, for example.
Do you calculate and track the yearly savings that the city realizes through this program? Or can
We don't actively
you?
track it, no, but I'm almost embarrassed to tell you what the previous contract was before we went to month. It was $3.16. And I talked to the guy, and what he's telling me and what they're hearing in the industry is because of the natural gas being taken over so much of the coal, and then some of the stuff that's happened in some of the other areas, that they don't see natural gas prices getting back to those old prices again. That's why we decided to jump off the month to month and go to try to lock it in for 2 years.
I do like Robert's request, though. Could we keep track of that savings, just to have those statistics a year from now and at the end of this contract?
Okay.
All right. Do we have a motion on this? Or did everyone ask a question that wanted to? Okay.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to allow City Manager Drew Sanders to sign a contract with Asymmetry Energy to lock in natural gas pricing through August 2024 at a rate of $7.61 per million BTU. Included in that would be an amendment to disclude the words state and federal and replace those with city funds.
Second.
All right, motion made by Councilmember Kiefhoffer and seconded by DeHaven.
Kiefhoffer.
Aye.
Rainey.
Aye.
DeHaven.
Aye.
Yazzie.
Aye.
Dobry.
Aye.
Spurl.
Aye.
Medina.
Aye.
Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Thanks, Rick. All right, so we'll move on to 8 on the agenda, draft resolutions and ordinances. We have none. So 9, city attorney's report.
Very brief report tonight. Working on a lot of contract amendments and some other stuff that is probably not appropriate for public discussion at this current moment, but your staff is keeping me busy, so hopefully some good is coming out of that.
Well, we appreciate you diving right in. Thank you, Pat. All right, so we'll move on to 10 on the agenda, city manager's report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The following are the current issues that we're working on in the city of Cortez. Yesterday, the city met with the regional director of CDOT and some of her key staff members here at City Hall. The purpose of that meeting was to create or renew relationships with that agency and to find ways to work more closely together, especially where we have 2 major highways through our city. It was a great networking opportunity. We have now a clear path regarding how to best interact with them and advocate for the city of Cortez. We actually have a staff member attending a meeting with them on Thursday this week. City of Cortez is also pleased to announce that we're putting the finishing touches on a renewed or rather refreshed graffiti mitigation program. It is really time that we address this problem in earnest and take the necessary steps to keep Cortez beautiful. We have already taken mitigation action on city properties and are already working on with selected property owners who have been hardest hit with graffiti. We are finalizing our communication and a community outreach plan and expect that information to be sent out en masse in the near future. We're hoping to get the community behind us on this effort in order to address this blight on our community. This effort is essentially a problem-oriented policing problem, or initiative rather, that will be managed by the police department, supported by the Public Works, Parks and Recreation, and the Community and Economic Development departments. Graffiti is a crime, and so the first step towards mitigation is to report it to the police. Once the police report is taken, property owners will need to remove the damage from their property, and the city is providing some guidance on how to accomplish this. However, the city of Cortez recognizes that affected property owners are victims of a crime, and the city is here to help mitigate graffiti as needed. More information will be forthcoming on who and how to contact the city for assistance. And as a side note, Mayor and Council, Chief Brock, I believe you told us there was 7 arrests made for this particular crime in the recent past? Yeah. So since April, they've arrested 7 people. Moving on, just this afternoon, we received the first draft of the audit report for 2017, which is, if you'll recall, is one of our high-risk audit years. I invite your recollection to the circumstance where our auditors did not feel comfortable providing opinions for 2017, 2018, and 2019 because those were all high-risk years, and the person that was involved in that crime was still in the books. So now we have finished the audits, and now they're going back and giving us those audit reports, and we accept those, or suspect those will be in succession. Once the final draft is in order, we will be presenting that to council and requesting that you accept that. Then, Mayor, I would like to do an employee highlight this evening. This evening, I'd like to recognize Lyle Bear, and he's nominated by Creighton Wright, our Parks and Recreation Director. The Parks and Recreation Department, like many in the city, is full of remarkable people. Lyle Bear, acting Parks Superintendent, is one such remarkable employee. He is dedicated and committed to doing the best job possible. He is the quiet and yet caring leader of the Parks team. While he served as an informal leader alongside the former Parks Superintendent for many years, he formally stepped into that role this past spring and is now serving as the acting superintendent. Early in the spring, as we struggled to hire enough seasonal staff, Lyle often wore several hats, including leader, mower operator, facility worker, and others. The most time-consuming repetitious task is mowing. When short-staffed, Lyle would come out and often on weekends or take a shortened holiday to mow and stay on schedule to ensure the parks were well manicured for residents. Lyle and I often joked about how nice it would be only to have one job rather than 3 or 4. Later in the summer, Lyle finally got his wish, and he was able to fill his open spots. Unfortunately, it only lasted for about a month as several seasonal work staffers headed back to school. For a short time, Lyle had only one job as the acting Parks Superintendent. Lyle is a steadfast leader of the Parks maintenance team. He and his team are dedicated, committed, and provided an unmatched park system, especially for such a small community. I am proud of the work the Parks team has accomplished this summer under Lyle's leadership. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Great, thank you. We do have great staff at the cities.
Agreed.
All right, so then we'll move on to city council committee reports. I'll go over the workshop quick. All right, during our workshop, we had 7 of our 13 recipients for our community grants program present. We heard from the Cancer Resource Alliance of Montezuma and Dolores County, which we gave, I was going to try to give the numbers of how much we gave to each, but oh well. Okay, and then we heard from Community Connections, Four Corners Child Advocacy Center, Four Corners Community Band, San Juan BOCES, School Community Youth Collaborative, and the Dolores Watershed and Resilient Forest Collaborative. We definitely have a really great community programs and resources, and I'm glad that we can help fund them in some way and keep them viable and good resources in our community. All right, and then we also heard from our community intervention program. It's only 3 months old, but they're already making a difference. And thankfully they have some strong funding for the next few years, so hopefully we can see this program continue to help our community and grow. All right, do we have any other board reports from any council members?
Yes, this past Wednesday I attended the Historic Preservation Board meeting. There's a few things. We have a possible new real estate agent who will be a member. It's good to keep a real estate agent as a member of historic preservation, because when historic properties change hands is often a time when they could become listed on the historic preservation rolls. So there is potentially a new real estate agent who'd be interested in joining the board. The council, I don't want to say too much about it because the council will be hearing about it in September, but the Historic Preservation Board received an award, and we'll hear about that in a future workshop. And then also, we talked about tomorrow, there is the initial meeting for the state historic grant that the historic board received, and to do the initial meeting about the surveys, which is going to be for 1950s highway buildings, and there's, I believe, 10 on that, 10 buildings that are going to be on that survey.
Should we go down the line? Arlena, do you have any board reports? Okay, how about you, Dennis? All right, Matt?
Madam Mayor, I have a report on the Public Arts Committee. They are exploring new ways to raise awareness for a creative district here in Cortez. They're working with the Cortez Cultural Center, among others, to explore new venues and options for the arts, which includes music as well.
Great. Matt?
We will be meeting, I believe, in 2 Fridays from now.
Okay. Lydia? Nope. Okay. Great. Do we have an executive session? Nope. Okay, great. All right, then we'll move on to 13 on the agenda, our second public participation. Do we have any public speakers for that? Are you coming to me, Linda? Okay. All right, can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right, everyone seconded. Motion made by Councilmember Yazzie. I think seconded by Kiefhoffer.
DeHaven,
Aye.
Dobry,
Aye.
Kiefhoffer, Rainey,
Aye.
Spurl,
Aye.
Yazzie,
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right, thank you all for coming tonight. I'm glad it was a short night.